Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into the story of India's Independence Day. August 15th, 1947 is the date everyone knows. But the actual journey, well, it's much more complex, stretches back centuries, really. So our mission today is to unpack that long road, the birth of the nation, and crucially, the institutions that keep its democracy going. It's a story of struggle, yes, but also triumph and resilience.
Exactly. And this deep dive is a chance to look beyond just what happened. We want to understand how it all unfolded and why it continues to shape India today, one of the biggest democracies in the world. There are layers here, some pretty surprising details beneath the surface.
Okay, let's get into it then. Where does the British story really start? I suppose the Battle of Plassey, 1757.
That's the common starting point, yeah, the British East India Company. It began as trade, but, well, things shifted quickly. It effectively became a blueprint for a kind of corporate state wielding its own military and political power. Quite unique, actually.
But people didn't just accept this control, right? There was resistance.
Oh, definitely not unopposed. The Indian Rebellion of 1857 is pivotal here. Even though it was ultimately suppressed, it was a huge turning point. It brought diverse groups together against foreign rule, and it directly led to the British Crown stepping in. That's the beginning of the British Raj. Right, the transition from company rule to direct imperial rule. It showed this wasn't going to be easy for the British. Precisely. It signaled a long contested future for the empire.
So after 1857, what was the next major step in terms of sort of organized calls for self-governance?
That would be the Indian National Congress, formed in 1885. Initially, it was more about creating a platform for public opinion, but it rapidly evolved into the main vehicle for the independence movement, really laid the groundwork for organized nationalism.
And then things really accelerate, especially with Mahatma Gandhi's return in 1915. His approach was quite different.
Transformative, really. Gandhi's genius was taking satyagraha, this idea of truth force or nonviolent resistance, and turning it into a mass political strategy. Think about the Salt March, a direct hit on a British monopoly, or the Quit India movement later on. These weren't just protests. They were highly calculated campaigns. They turned the act of obedience on its head, making colonial rule fundamentally harder to sustain. The scale was just unprecedented.
But achieving freedom wasn't straightforward. There was the immense tragedy of partition.
Yes, that's the inescapable sorrow intertwined with independence. The political divide, particularly the Muslim League's push for the two-nation theory, advocating separate states, it tragically resulted in the partition of British India when independence finally came in August 1947. A truly bittersweet moment marked by, well, immense human suffering and geopolitical lines drawn that still exist today.
A very difficult birth for two nations.
Despite that profound challenge, August 15th itself was, of course, monumental. Jawaharlal Nehru's Tryst with Destiny speech at midnight. It captured all the hope and aspiration of the new nation. And hoisting the flag at the Red Fort, that became and remains such a powerful symbol of sovereignty.
Independence achieved, but the work was just beginning. Huge challenges, integrating hundreds of princely states, rebuilding the economy, dealing with the wounds of partition. Amidst all this, what institutional pillar really stands out in ensuring India's democracy took root and endured?
Well, based on the sources, it's clear the judiciary played, and continues to play, a massive role. Remember, India declared independence in 47, but it became a sovereign democratic republic on January 26, 1950. That's when its constitution came into effect. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the key architect, and the Constituent Assembly very deliberately created an independent judiciary.
As a check on the other branches of government.
Exactly. A critical check on both the executive and the legislature. And this wasn't just on paper. Landmark court cases like Kesavananda Paradi in 1973 were crucial. That ruling declared judicial independence a basic feature of the Constitution, meaning essentially it can't be amended or removed by Parliament. That was quite groundbreaking.
A very strong assertion of its role. So how has the judiciary acted as this guardian, say, during turbulent times or major national shifts?
It consistently steps in to protect fundamental rights, it upholds the rule of law, and crucially, it has the power of judicial review. It can strike down laws passed by Parliament if they violate the Constitution. Through everything from the Green Revolution's economic shifts to political crises like the emergency in the 1970s, the judiciary, despite pressures, provided a kind of stable framework. It ensured the rule of law, broadly speaking, prevailed. It really is a pillar.
It's quite a journey when you lay it out. From the East India Company's rise way back in 1757, through these massive nonviolent movements the very difficult moment of partition in 47, adopting the Constitution in 50, and then all the modern milestones like the Green Revolution you mentioned, even India's space program today. It's an incredible arc.
And woven through all of that, you see this thread of the judiciary. Its independence, that basic feature status, the power of judicial review. These aren't just abstract legal ideas. They are, truly vital elements that sustain India's democratic fabric. They ensure the freedom that was won back in 1947 actually stays protected and meaningful for citizens.
So, thinking about this whole story, this long, complex journey, and the ongoing effort needed to maintain those democratic institutions, what does it maybe teach us about what freedom and self-governance really mean, perhaps in any country, even now? Something to consider, maybe. That interplay between the memory of historical struggle and the need for strong, resilient institutions today.